Welcome back to the Notary Podcast, hosted exclusively by me, Daniel C. Lewis. I'm so happy to be here this morning and seeing all of you, or hopefully you're seeing all of me, or some of me. But today, this podcast is going to be about something a little different. It's going to be about an expense that notary entrepreneurs have, especially notary entrepreneurs that do mobile signings, like the traditional notary entrepreneur, doing mobile signings, I-9s, going out to different locations, doing real estate assignments, going to different title companies, and going to different homes and businesses to conduct the real estate transactions. This podcast today is going to talk about one of your biggest expenses. I haven't seen this talked about a whole lot on other notary podcasts, but today we're going to talk about one of the biggest expenses you will have. And no, it's not getting a lot of educational supplies and taking a lot of courses. One of your biggest expenses, I can't even talk this morning, will be your vehicle. If you're one of these notaries that, like myself, travel around to a lot of different areas, homes like businesses. I've done real estate closings on the side of the road in rest stops, at hotels, airports, whatever. You're going to need a good, reliable vehicle. And I just want to talk about some of the aspects today of getting a good, reliable vehicle. And I'm also going to tell you at the end what two vehicles that two vehicles that I highly recommend, or two car companies I highly recommend that you get your vehicles from. But we're going to go ahead and start with vehicles and some of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're doing your notary business. When I first started with my notary business, one of the biggest things I recognized immediately that I needed a vehicle that was going to be reliable, good to maintain, and that type of thing. And just to give you a little bit of background with me, I might look like a big guy, but I am not mechanically inclined at all. It'll take me about 2 weeks to change a flat tire. I am not mechanically inclined at all, so I just want to give you that background. And also, I am not being paid by any car companies to tell you. I'm just giving you my experience from over 21 years of being on the road, going to and from assignments all over the state of Indiana, and also not all over the state of Indiana, but also traveling all over the country, talking to other professional notary entrepreneurs that go out and do real estate closings, fingerprints, doing I-9s, and they just travel all over their states. So I wanted to give you kind of some insight to exactly the thought process I had with that. And keeping in mind, I'm not mechanically inclined at all. I don't know a whole lot about cars. In fact, before I even started being a notary entrepreneur, every car I had always broke down on the side of the road. And it was mostly because of my mindset, not because of the car. So just wanted to give you that. For new people that's just starting out and you're doing, because a lot of people start off thinking, I don't even know what kind of stamp I have, what kind of certificates I need. But you need to really think about the vehicle, especially if you're in a rural area or if you're in an area that you have to use a vehicle. You need to know, have some idea of what to look for when you are looking for a vehicle. I actually started off with a used vehicle, but it was very reliable, and I'll tell you about that a little later. The first thing you need to think about when you're going out doing this assignment, because a lot of people, when I go to notary meetups, they say, well, I'm using my vehicle and it's like this big SUV thing that just guzzles gas. You got to just think about a couple of things when you're thinking about doing this, especially if you're thinking about doing this full time. First, you need to think about reliability and the maintenance cost of a vehicle. When I was first doing my business plan, that was part of my business plan. That was a little bit of that's pretty a major part of my business plan, because I didn't want to be. I knew that I was going to be traveling sometimes 2 hours when I first started, 2 or 3 hours from my home. I didn't want to be in a vehicle that wasn't very reliable or would be prone to breaking down on the side of the road. And I live in a cold weather state. I live in Indiana. Some of you may live in warm weather states, but there's just something that you just need to keep in mind: the reliability and what the maintenance costs, not just the cost of the vehicle, the maintenance cost of the vehicle, because the maintenance costs and repairs can be quite pricey for you. Also, a second thing that you should keep in mind when you're looking at vehicles to purchase or vehicles that you have that you want to use for your notary business, fuel efficiency. I know right now, I know some of you say, well, I have an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles are good. I've known a lot of notaries that have switched to using electric vehicles. So there's pluses and minuses with that, but from what I hear, if you get a great deal on warranties with electric vehicles, and also a great deal on warranties with a gas vehicle, it could be a great thing for notaries. But for me, when I was looking at vehicles, when I first started my business 21 years ago, I was always looking at the mileage, like I said, reliability, the maintenance costs, how much miles I can get to the gallon on highway and city. And also now we have, adding to that now, hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles. So that's something else that you want to keep in mind. Also, you're going to be in your vehicle a lot. So you got to look at, and some people don't see this the same way, the comfort. Are you comfortable in your vehicle? Because you're going to be in your vehicle a lot. You're going to be in traffic jams in your vehicle, because for me, and I'm just going to, part of that comfort, it has to have a good stereo system, especially if I'm going to rural areas. They have to have a good sound system in the vehicle. But you look at the comfort, heated seats. If you're in cold weather states like mine, I was in heated seats, and also I had to have rubber floor mats, because with snow and rain, that really helps keep the maintenance of the vehicle up, and that works with the comfort level. Also, it has to have user-friendly controls. I've been in so many vehicles that they have all these things. It's like you're on a spaceship. You're scared to touch a button. I'm a very simple guy. It has to be something that I can easily press and easily, or even voice commands, something that's not going to be intimidating to me, where I have to sit down and study a manual before I can even drive the vehicle. So it has some friendly controls, and also definitely a navigation system. Also, you want to consider another thing that you want to consider when you're looking at getting a vehicle would be the space in the vehicle. Is it a vehicle that is secure? Because you're gonna be carrying a lot of very confidential documents from your signers, and you're gonna have a lot of confidential information in the vehicle. I was just having this discussion with a notary the other day about how to secure documents within your vehicle. So you might want to just look at, is it a safe vehicle? I've seen read some reports on vehicles that are more susceptible to people coming in and being able to take the vehicle. If you're using a fob, especially if you're a person like me using a fob, you got to make sure you're aware that if you leave that fob in the vehicle, somebody can just get in, start it, and drive your vehicle away. So you got to be careful with that. Also, I'm concerned with like the space in the vehicle, the interior flexibility with the seats, and also making sure that it has a good security system, if you will. And that's another thing that you might want to keep in mind, especially if you have your documents. Sometimes I know some notaries, if they're running into a place to pick up other documents and they have documents in the car, they may even lock the documents in the trunk, and you want to just make sure your vehicle has some type of, as a notary, a pretty good security system. Should have also something else to keep in mind when you're considering a vehicle for yourself as a notary signing agent or just a notary going place to place, the safety features have to be intact, just has to be one of the premier safety features on vehicles. And the reason why I say that, so many notaries, believe it or not, and I've been a notary for 21 years, notary entrepreneur for 21 years, so many notaries, one of the things that get them out of the notary business, because you're in your vehicles for so much, they have accidents. Not that they're bad drivers, but it's because people have hit them, either from behind or a side crash. So when you're looking at vehicles, a lot of people say, I'm just looking for the most inexpensive vehicle I can get. You should be definitely looking at safety features because you're in your car all the time. So the chances of you being in some type of accident, not to say that you're a bad driver, but the chances of you being into some type of accident or some type of fender bender or someone behind you hit you not paying attention or somebody on the side of you hit you is a little higher than just anyone that's just sitting behind a desk, if that makes sense. So make sure you understand the safety features, or you have a good understanding of the safety features of vehicles that you're looking at, advanced safety features, and what their ratings are compared to other vehicles in that class, if that makes sense. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, technology and connectivity. Unfortunately, when I started, a lot of vehicles didn't have any type of navigation system. Now, a lot of vehicles have a navigation system in their vehicles. If you're looking at a lot of different vehicles, look at the navigation. See if they have a navigation system in their vehicles. Because when I started, just to tell you how old school this was, we used to have to go online, print out or bring a map it out on MapQuest, and then as we're driving, reading a map and, okay, turn here. Now we went into these navigation GPS systems. Now most vehicles have these GPS systems. They save you so much time, energy, and effort. If you have a GPS system, just print your documents, go on your vehicle, put in the address, and you just go. Make sure the mapping system is up to date. Also, another big plus with technology and connectivity is having a vehicle that connects with, your smartphone. Smartphone is so that's so important, especially when you're driving. You get calls. You can answer your calls through your Bluetooth. You don't have to pick up your phone. And in a lot of states, if you do this in your vehicle with your phone, it could be against the law. You're not supposed to touch your phone. Having that smartphone technology in your vehicle, that's just another thing to keep in mind, that you have that connectivity with your smartphones. And most vehicles now have that type of technology where you can connect with your smartphone. You don't have to pick it up. It has a navigation system. You can talk and see the navigation system in the vehicle, if that makes sense. Another thing, and this is the big thing that people always look at when they're looking at vehicles: cost consideration. How much will the vehicle cost? Because if you look at it with the maintenance, and I'm including gas, oil changes, tire rotations, basic maintenance on your vehicle. A lot of people don't look at that. They just look at the cost of the vehicle. But you want to take all that in consideration when you look at cost, and you want to establish a clear budget. And it doesn't matter how much your vehicle costs. It matters how you actively strategize to have the business to pay for the vehicle. A lot of times when people, especially when notaries are just getting involved or just getting started in their business and they want to have a successful business, they look at the cost of the vehicle, because there's some upfront costs you have to make when you're making a purchase, unless, of course, you have great credit. But you got to look at the monthly cost of the vehicle, and then and a lot of people look at that, and that's a big what they say that's a big obstacle. They say, well, that's just I might get a vehicle that costs me. I'm just throwing out a number, $600 a month, just on the cost of a new vehicle. And I've seen because I do a lot of car deals with different vendors, and I've seen them as high as $2,100 a month for that. It doesn't matter if it's $600 or $2,100. What matters is when you look at the cost, you got to look at, well, how much business will I bring in? Will I bring in business at that amount where that's more affordable, or if it's more affordable at the $2,100 a month vehicle? So you got to just, it depends on your personal, as we went over some of the things that I recommend, you just got to keep that in mind, the cost of the vehicle and how much money your business will actually bring in. Because if anybody knows me, if I'm a more of a business person that happens to be a notary and not a notary that happens to be in business, if that makes sense. So you have to just budget the cost in compared to your business. For me, if I'm sending money out going this way, money has to be coming in this way. If I'm spending a certain percentage of my income on a vehicle, on a new vehicle, then that vehicle should be helping me bring money in. Hopefully that makes sense. So you just got to keep that in mind. Also, something that I know this might surprise people, but the vehicle that you have, it has to have some type of, and I'm just putting this out there because it has to give you the look of a professional, if that makes sense. I know a lot of realtors, they like to get more high-end vehicles when they go to show houses, so they can say, oh, there's a nice BMW in the driveway, there's a nice Audi in the vehicle, there's a nice Mercedes in the driveway. For notaries, you must have a professional looking vehicle, not something that, and I've been there too, when I put the key in the ignition and I turn the key, I have to say a little prayer before the car comes on, and I don't want to walk behind the car because the exhaust is going to hit me, or when I drive off, I don't have a big oil puddle there. But you have to have a vehicle that's going to give you a professional looking appearance. But yet, and I want to caution you, you don't want to have a vehicle that looks so outrageously expensive where you go into some areas and they say, wow, this person must have a lot of income or have some type of something that is of value that I can break in that vehicle while they're in the closing, and I can go in there and funnel through their vehicle and see if there's anything of value in there. You have to kind of look at that and have that balance. So, but it has to be a professional looking vehicle. It can't be something that you drive up in somebody's driveway and there's a big oil stain or the exhaust, or you hear your vehicle a mile away with a muffler that you can hear 10 blocks away. It has to be something that looks professional and has image of cleanliness, if you will. Because I've seen a lot of vehicles, people drove up. I've seen notaries that drove up in people's driveway and they say, oh my God, absolutely not. Keep your car down the road. I don't want even people seeing your car in front of my house. Well, just something to keep in mind. Also, when you're thinking about getting your vehicle and you're thinking about the cost, the maintenance cost, we talked about that, the image, and make sure the compatibility and the comparability and the comfort. You also got to make sure you understand the insurance cost of that vehicle, because your vehicle goes down or you do have an accident, you definitely want to make sure you have enough insurance to cover that, because you're going to be on the road a lot. So you're going to make sure, thinking about the vehicle that you want to use in this business, you have to have the proper insurance for that. So you want to talk with your insurance agent, your property and casualty agent about that. I don't want to recommend any particular type of insurance, but you want to make sure you have the proper insurance that covers you and the vehicle if something happens with you, because you're going to be on the road a lot. Also, this is something else that I thought about when I got into this business. I knew I was going to be using my vehicle for business. I knew that I was going to put a lot of miles on my vehicle, especially in my area. Some areas you don't have to go a long way, but you might still be putting a lot of miles on your vehicle. But I knew I was going to put a lot of miles on my vehicle. So one of the things that I kept in mind, and this is something that really helped me, and this is a nugget that I hopefully really, if you're writing some stuff down, this nugget will really help you. Resale value. At some point, when I started this business, with all those things I talked about. I want to keep those things in mind, but also I always think of having an exit strategy on everything I do now, especially when I start this business. So if I was buying a car, I was thinking immediately, what am I going to do at the end of the life of this car? When will the end of the life of this vehicle be? When will it happen? When will I know that it would happen? So I always thought about the resale value, and what I do with my cars, and I'll tell you what type of cars I started off with, what I have now, and what cars I had during my business. When I started this business, I knew I was going to buy. It was going to be an investment for me because I'm investing in my business, in myself, and the vehicle is one of the biggest investments you're going to make. I was thinking when I started, because I have children, I was going to buy a vehicle for the business and then pass it down, which I've done to my children. Now I'm passing it down to my grandchildren. So I'll buy the vehicle brand new, work the vehicle, and then my idea was to pass the vehicle down when I was ready to get another vehicle for the business. So that's what I've done. And in some instances, I actually resold once I had the vehicle. And one vehicle I had 260,000 miles on it, and I just thought it was just time to sell, and had a high resale value. So that's something that you want to think about when you're thinking about getting a vehicle for your business. Think about, okay, I'm getting it now, but what am I going to do 4 or 5 years, 10 years from now? In fact, one of the first vehicles we've had is now about almost 20 years old, and one of my sons still have that vehicle, and it's working very, very well. So think about how I'm going to dispose of the car, whether I'm going to give it to a child, a nephew, a grandson, so they can keep that in the family. This is something to think about when you're getting a vehicle. Recommend types of vehicles that you get. Now, here's a couple things that I recommend. I recommend that you get like a more of a, and it depends on your taste, SUVs, just a compact SUV, not a huge SUV. Some people get these huge SUVs. Depends on where you're at. If you're a person that's more comfortable with a four-wheel drive in your area, get a nice compact SUV. Some people like hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles. I've driven hybrid vehicles. I've driven electric vehicles. A lot of power, and a lot of companies coming out with brand new hybrid and electric vehicles. For my taste, and I'll just give you an example. I don't go out and get the very first set of vehicles, like the very first set of electric vehicles, the very first set of hybrid vehicles. This is just me, and this is my opinion, because years ago, there was this thing called a VCR that came out, and it was expensive. It's well, I mean, it was like, and believe it or not, and I know some people might not believe this, but it was like $2,000 to get a VCR. Now, it's hard to even find a VCR, but if you go to a pawn shop, you might can find one for $3. VCR, and that's what I'm saying. As the technology expands, the price and the competition um, creeps in, and then everything goes down. So I'm not big on being the first to get the electric cars or hybrid cars or anything like that. But I think I talked to a lot of notaries that have them and have done well. If you do electric car, what I found, and after talking to several notaries that have electric cars, it is best, especially if you're in a cold weather state, to have the charging unit in your home if you have a home. Of course, everybody has a home, but some people have apartments. I think electric cars don't do so well if you have an apartment and you have to keep going out to charge them, especially in the wintertime. But if you have an electric car, from my understanding, charging them in a home unit where you can just go out, have it charged, and go out and do your assignments during the day, that works best. Right now, I'm driving a compact SUV. It's my first time doing that, but it's a great car, and I'll tell you about that. Also, sedans. I started off in a sedan, and actually started off in a Toyota Corolla. It was a used Toyota Corolla, but that car was like a tank. It went through snow, it went through rain, it went through hail, it went through a lot of different weather conditions, and it was great. I would probably still have that car today if I didn't have my son who had a fender bender in it, with that. So now I want to get to some cars that I recommend that I had. Now, keeping in mind, before I became a notary, I didn't know a whole lot about cars at all. I'm not mechanically inclined at all with cars. Like I said, before to change a flat tire, it would probably take me 2 weeks to try to figure out what goes where. So that's how I am. So I'm just going to give you that indication. And also, again, I am not a person that is getting paid by any car companies or anything like that, but I'm just going to give you my experience after 21 years going all over the state of Indiana, all over the country. I've driven several times from California down, from Alameda, California, all the way down to Orangeburg, South Carolina. So I've driven all over the country. Oregon to Jupiter, Florida, all over the country. So here's my picks for cars that if I'm a notary, no matter where I'm at in the country, I think they'll work pretty well. I started off with a Toyota, not Camry, Toyota Corolla. That car worked very well. I did the first 2 years with that. And as I was doing that, my business was growing, and I wanted to make sure I had a good foundation for my business with my vehicle, so to speak. So I wrote up a business plan, and I went out and purchased. Then I went from a Toyota Corolla, I went to a Toyota Yaris. That's a car that's not quite a hybrid, but it gets great gas mileage, and it was very similar to the Toyota Corolla. Toyota Yaris, it was a sedan. It wasn't the coupe, it was a sedan, and that car was fantastic. I started off with 13 miles on that car, and then I think when I sold it, it had like 173,000 miles on that car, and I drove that car everywhere. Went across country in that car, drove it all over the state of Indiana. And now, keeping in mind with the cars, I took my cars directly to the dealership because at the dealership they have certified mechanics. I know some people for their maintenance, they say, well, hey, I got a friend, Leroy, who can, and if your name is Leroy and you're not a mechanic, I'm sorry, but I had a friend at Leroy, he could fix cars, he had changed this and changed that. As a business owner, I don't believe that that's the best way to keep your car for long periods of time. That might be a short-term fix, but I don't think that's the best way of doing that. So with that Toyota Yaris, always took it back to the dealership. And a couple of reasons for that was because whenever I wanted to get an oil change, not oil change, gas, but oil change, tires rotation, any type of basic maintenance that came up in the car, I always took it to the dealership. The dealership have a multi-point inspection they do. They not only fix that, but they fix the thing that you came for or do the maintenance on the thing that you came for, but they also can give you suggestions, recommendations on how to make your car run better. And usually at the dealership, I don't get upsell or the upsell, where they come out and say, oh, we can give you this, this, and that. Now, I know some people say, well, Daniel, I usually take my car to that Quick Lube, Jiffy Lube, this is just my opinion. I don't take my cars there because of from my understanding, their mechanics aren't actually get the same certifications as a dealership mechanic, if that makes sense. So I usually take my cars directly to the dealership. The dealership's work is insured, and they always give me a great deal. Before, years ago, if you took your car to the dealership, you can get raked through the coals financially. But now, the dealerships has been very much more affordable, much more competitive to the Jiffy Lubes, the other little small shops. So, and it's also a great business. It's a business write-off when you're doing that. But talk to your tax professional with that. So, for years I was a Toyota guy. I did Toyota Corolla, Toyota Yaris, and I just got rid of that car because I said, man, this is 273,000 miles. This car can't keep going forever. So I decided it was time for me to get another vehicle. And at the time, I moved from that car to a BMW because my business was just taking off. And that was more a car in line with where I was in business. And I love BMWs. They are great cars, especially if you're a person that's traveling through the mountains or doing a lot of highway miles and you need to get somewhere in an expedient and an efficient manner. BMW, I like BMWs for that. But I was just at a different place in my business. Now, I am more of a Honda person. The BMWs were great, and that was a car that I moved into down my family line. My son has that car now. He still loves that car. But now I am moved into cars that I'm recommending now that I'm high on right now is Hondas. I was driving a Honda Accord for a long time. That has been an excellent car. And again, I take my cars to the dealerships. I took my BMW to the BMW dealership to do any type of maintenance on that. Hondas, I've taken my cars to the Honda dealership. I've started with a Honda Accord. Now I'm in a Honda like CR-V. It's just a small SUV. Yeah, I'm getting older, so getting low in a BMW wasn't very satisfying for me. After a while, and now I'm in a Honda, a little SUV, and I'm an SUV guy now, little small, or CR-V, that works very well. Honda dealerships are just outstanding customer service. I just can't compare to all of the customer services, the service centers at the dealerships. Honda's right now for me is the best. And I know there's other cars out there that people say, hey, This other car works great. Subarus, I heard, is very good too. I'm even hearing great things from other notaries about Mazdas. But right now, I'm a Honda guy, and Hondas have worked out great for me. So I hope you liked this content today. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Definitely subscribe. We love to hear from you. And if you have any suggestions, we have a link down below called Buy Me a Coffee. And we'd love for you to go on there and type in some information that you think that you would want to hear from us. Hopefully you like this. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.